Hey everybody, Mr. On Demand Man with the Master Plan. Is Linux better than Windows? Is it really? Let's go over this. A better operating system than Windows, Linux. There's a article here that I really wanted to talk about, and I'm going to give my insights to this throughout the video, and let you know uh, some of what they're talking about here, why it is and isn't true, and what's going on. Linux is an operating system software that manages resources on a computer with many distributions and distros, different operating system versions. However, to change one's operating system to Linux from other operating systems like Windows or Mac OS, one will have to get used to the new user interface and go through the somewhat difficult process of installing Linux on one's computer. So one might wonder, why download Linux? Although the journey of using Linux may be difficult at first, the results may be very rewarding in the end. This depends on the user. And yes, it's going to be difficult to get Linux set up. And part of that difficulty is the fact that there isn't as much support. So you're going to take this machine that's running Windows and you're going to hope that all the hardware is compatible with Linux. That's not always what happens at the end of the day. There's printers, there's video cards that may work but may not work well. There's not proper drivers for a lot of different network, uh, Wi-Fi devices, depending on what you've got. You might have to search the internet to try to find some support and find something to make that portion of your machine work. Or you may have to purchase an external USB device to make something work when you already had a device in the computer that works already. These are all issues that happen, not to mention the fact that there's a whole bunch of Windows software you just won't be able to run anymore, regardless of whatever emulation or whatever things that are out there to make Windows programs work or Windows games work. Not all of them do, and a big portion of them don't. Let's go ahead and move on to this article. Even though they're making it very much better, and Linux is better than it ever has been today. This is why so many people are considering moving to Linux with the boneheaded moves of Microsoft. I'm telling you that straight off the bat. I'm not trying to say anything to be a hater on Linux. I'm just trying to speak the truth and not be one-sided and give you guys the facts before you jump in. One of the benefits of getting Linux on one's computer is that the operating system compared to Windows and perhaps other operating systems is more efficient and faster. Due to its efficiency, tasks are done more smoothly and faster tasks done on Windows because of Linux's less usage of RAM. First of all, let's go over why there's less usage of RAM, because the Linux operating system in its basis core, when you load it, doesn't have anything in it. So yes, it uses less RAM. We've been able to make Windows 11 run without any extra crap in it on 4 gigabytes of RAM. So um, to say that is a misnomer. Uh, Once you start loading a bunch of programs and you load a bunch of things into Linux, is it going to be faster? That's really subjective. Because if you want to talk to gamers running a high-end NVIDIA card, no, it's not. Because NVIDIA cards run far slower on Linux than they do on Windows. And this is a fact. And it's because of NVIDIA's lack of support for Linux. That's just one list in a long list of hardware that doesn't have the better support. And when you have better support and better drivers, things run faster. So Windows has the better support. You're going to have faster performance on that side of things. Although Windows does have a bigger gaming library than Linux, which is entirely true, meaning that some games playable on Windows aren't on Linux, along with the benefit of faster applications on Linux, computers with older hardware can run the operating system more smoothly than Windows because Linux uses fewer resources. This is true. The game library is bigger on Windows. You can run Linux on a computer with less hardware because there's no requirements like a TPM module requirement. Windows has certain hardware requirements on the new Windows 11 and so forth that are being a pain in the butt. I'm going to be honest about that. It's not a good thing for Windows. If Windows wants a larger adoption rate and wants people to move into their new version of Windows, if Microsoft wants that, they need to remove the restrictions that are making people not be able to upgrade. And then people want to go down the road of running something like Linux on an older machine. While Linux can make an older machine very usable, it's still an older machine. There's a lot can go wrong. So it's and then there's a lot of programs and things you can't do that you might want to do. So it really depends on the person. Every person is going to be different. Every person is going to have a different set of things they want to do or things they're interested in. Some people don't play games at all, which is going to be fine. I mean, if you're running Linux just for your normal home use, you're browsing the internet, watching YouTube, going to, your websites, etc. Absolutely fine. I have a problem with them always talking about Linux's efficiency. They always seem to make Linux sound like it's just a faster, more efficient operating system, which in theory it is, but it is because it doesn't have anything there when you load it. So it tests out more efficiently and faster in a lot of respects. That being said, it makes it a better operating system for servers, for sure. Now, if I was going to set myself up some kind of special web server, that's all that machine was, definitely Linux would be a really good choice for something like that. Additionally, unlike other operating systems, Linux has a wide variety of flavors to suit users' needs. Flavors, what they mean is they got 100 different versions of Linux out there. This is one of the problems with Linux. It causes a lot of confusion for people trying to figure out which distro they're going to install when they actually decide to switch to Linux, because there just isn't one standard of Linux. I think this is one of the biggest problems Linux has for people, because there's no standardization with Linux. And that creates really, really bad problems with support and making things run. While certain hardware may run fine on one distro of Linux, it may not run fine on another distro. And then this creates just headache for people. They're like, okay, I'm going to switch from this distro to this. I'm going to reload again. No, people don't want that. People want to load their machine and they want it to just work. This is one of the big problems with Linux, is that you don't load it and it just works. You load it and then you have to load this and then you have to load this and you have to set this up, and it's just not all set up. That's a big issue that hurdle Linux needs to get over. A lot of distros have their own basic Play Store type thing that allows you to install apps much easier, but they still lack a lot of easiness when it comes to when issues arise. Let's see. Linux has a wide variety of flavors to suit users' needs. These flavors are also called distros. These distributions vary in their features, such as their graphical interface, performance, and additional resources for specific purposes, depending on what a user wants. Which means you can get a distro that looks like Windows. You can get a distro that looks like Mac. You can get a distro that looks like something completely different. So that's what they mean by the distros. The distro is the the graphical user interface, and the GUI, and so depending on what you like, you might want to go with a different distro. Some distributions are made to be user-friendly, so new users feel comfortable. Distros such as Ubuntu and Mint, distributions like Arch Linux and Kali Linux, are customized to suit programmers' needs. For performance and being lightweight, other distributions like AntiX and Void Linux are especially tailored for this reason. In the Linux world, you got all these Linux fanboys, I call them, right? And that's fine. Linux is a good operating system. I'm not saying it's not a good operating system. But inside that world of Linux users, you got them infighting with each other over which distro they should be using. And they will actually argue with each other over which distro is better than the other. It's a sad situation, really. So, when you get into that world, it becomes just a mess. Even though there are many may be confusion on which one to pick, after some research and thinking about what they desire, they'll be able to pick the distribution that fits them well. After some research and thinking. How much research and thinking are we talking about? 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, an entire day taken up just figuring out what's going to be best for you to run? And what if it's not when you load it and then you got to try to use another one? Because you're going to be thinking, well, these couple look good. Well, that one I didn't like very well. Let me try the other one. And then you're stuck loading and loading and loading. This is what I see by a lot of people that switch to Linux, okay? They go through one distro and then they go to another distro and another distro until they finally find the one that suits them, because they don't know when they first start. And then they're left wondering about these other distros they didn't try, and they're thinking, well, I really should try them to find out. It takes you down a rabbit hole that you waste a lot of time. Instead of using your computer, you're actually getting your computer ready to be used, and it's just not fun. Thus, users' preferences are satisfied by Linux's wide range of distributions. I will say Linux has more options with the GUI than Windows does. Linux has more options in that area. There are a lot of pluses and bona fide reasons why you would want to go with Linux. Personally, I don't feel it's the best daily driver. That being said, Microsoft has all kinds of problems with Windows. There is no perfect option out there, people. If you keep hunting for that perfect operating system or that perfect fit, you're going to be hunting forever. Take what you have and make it work the best it can for you. And don't spend a bunch of time trying to search for that perfect option. Because if you do that, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy. Furthermore, Linux is a safe operating system and generally more secure than Windows. Bullshit. It's not more secure. Linux, almost every distro literally comes with no security, no antivirus. You have to load something on it to give you any security at all. We're talking a firewall, basic stuff that's already built into Windows. I absolutely can't stand it when people say stuff like this. Linux is open source, allowing many people to edit the Linux system and make their own unique version for the operating system. As a result, more people are working on the Linux operating system, which causes security issues to be addressed. That's just not true. When it's open source and more people are working on it, more people are working to exploit it as well, because it's open source. And they can access the source code to hack it. So I don't agree with those things. Coming from somebody who is a convicted hacker myself, okay, that is just not true. Along with being open source, fewer viruses and malicious software are made target for Linux. Fewer viruses and malicious software are made to target Linux. That is true. 100%. That doesn't mean there aren't any. And when you have an operating system with absolutely no security zero, I mean none, when you out of the box, that's going to make it really easy for somebody to put something out there. And with more people using Linux, there's going to be more viruses. They say the same thing about Apple. It's just not true with Apple either. I've had to work on plenty of Apple machines that got infected. So there's plenty of things out there that are attacking Linux, especially with Linux being the source of Android as well. So just think about that for a minute. There's a lot of stuff out there. As Windows is currently more commonly used, this means that Linux users are safer from harmful programs because fewer viruses target the Linux operating system. That's true. Fewer programs target Apple as well, kind of, but that's not as true as it used to be, because while Microsoft still has that big percentage of user base compared to the others, the percentage has gained with Linux and gained with Apple over the years. So there's far more now people attacking those operating systems than there ever was before. So if you're just going to blindly sit there and think you're safe, don't think you still got to take the same precautions. You need protection. Um, when downloading viruses made for Windows, they'll most likely be harmless and will not damage the system since Linux is open source. It's easier to integrate into machine learning strategies as one can install specific software packages and configure the system to one's liking. By contrast, proprietary software locks into a set of pre-established software packages and system configurations. Open Meta 2024. This means that Linux is a better option than Windows for programming AIs, because a user has more freedom to install software for making AIs in an open source operating system. This is entirely true. This is why it's one of the most used OSs for programmers, developers. Developers do use Linux a lot. I've used Linux. I currently have a machine running Linux. I don't use it as a daily driver in my home for most of my normal daily stuff because the current end user software is being put out on other platforms first and foremost than it is on Linux for the most part. That's why as a daily driver OS, something you're just opening and using every day and not developing on, there is better options out there. Especially because I'm a big gamer too, and gaming is far superior on Windows. Because a user has more freedom to install software for making AIs. Let's see. Ultimately, Linux is a great operating system. Operating system replacement for Windows because of its customizability, performance, security. I'm going to say Linux is a great operating system replacement for Windows. It is. It can do almost everything you want to do. For most people, even gaming is so much better than it used to be on Linux. So much better. That if you buy the right hardware, which is an AMD video card because they're way more supported, the drivers, everything is way better on Windows for on Linux for AMD. So if you're going to go with a Linux-based machine, go AMD, get an AMD video card. Do the research, buy the hardware that's going to best suit it so that it's going to run and be more compatible with everything for you as well. That's one thing, that's one big thing I can tell you. If you're going to build a machine for that, then do that, definitely. Unlike what other operating systems have to offer, Linux has an amazing amount of features, pros that satisfy people's needs more than what other operating systems may fulfill, ranging from gamers to programmers. And it's I think Linux is terrific for servers. I think Linux is terrific for your average everyday user. And if you're just an everyday user that's doing, some documents, some regular home stuff, some regular internet stuff, yeah, it can be terrific. It depends on how much and what you do. So you really have to narrow down what programs you use, what do you do with your computer, how do you run your computer, etc., and decide for yourself. At the end of the day, there is no perfect operating system. That's my bottom line. Microsoft has made a mess of Windows. So hopefully Windows 12 is much better than 11. I don't have much faith in that. At the end of the day, I think Linux is absolutely terrific, that there is something out there competing with Windows. That is an Apple. Because there needs to be competition. As a matter of fact, I hope more people adopt Linux for normal everyday use going forward so that it forces Microsoft to do a better job. The only way that Microsoft is going to do a better job with Windows is going to be if they have a little bit of pressure. So the pressure needs to come from something like Linux in order to make us all have a better computing experience at the end of the day. So hopefully this was a good video for you all. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully my rant wasn't too awfully bad about certain things. These companies need to do better. at the end of the day. And if they do, then we'll all be better for it. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, let me know down below why you didn't. And if you think I was just hating on Linux, you should watch the whole video, because I just gave good things and bad things both, and I also talked bad about Windows. So if you shouldn't make assumptions. And everybody out there, please comment down below and let me know what you think about all of this. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one. Bye.